this guy down the road, he swears up and down that he shot one. You know, he actually shot at it. And because it was throwing rocks and gravel and stuff against his house and scaring his kids and all of this stuff. Of course, I don't get out at night, so I've never had occasion to see one, and I hear that he prowls around mostly at night.
They heard this racket, and they come outside, and it was several of these big feet. They shot one of them, and the other ones picked it up and carried it off and took it with them.
At a distance down here in this bottom, going back and forth. He said he didn't have too much of a problem with it. He knew they were here, but until they started getting up around his house, he got afraid for his family. We had our own interesting evening that night.
They're here. They're here. You see the eyes? You see the eyes over there? They're here.
Mike, don't shoot. Mike, don't shoot. Don't shoot. Wait, let's get the camera over. We observed large eyes on the south side of Tim's property that evening. Tim and his brother Mike said that the creatures were back, and apparently more than one that night. Like that. I've never seen any eyes like that. They were very powerful, glowing orbs of light that just reflected back as a nocturnal animal would. It's just amazing to see that sort of animal.
Woo-hoo! Tonight we're going to be talking about something called the Siege of Honobia. And for the first time ever, I've actually got a problem with some Bigfoots, man.
I say this story is intense, so I can see why they would sort of upset you.
Before we get into that, though, we need to say hello, everybody. Welcome to EnigmaCast. You know who I am. You know who my boy is over here, Sasquatch Steve. Give him a wave, Steve.
How y'all doing?
And so last week 2 weeks ago, we did an episode where we're talking about the fiduciary that went on in Portlock, Alaska, Choctaw, Alaska, right? And I thought to myself, hey, that has got to be probably the most violent Bigfoot stuff I could ever come across, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it still is, in my opinion. But however, I thought, you know what? Has there been anything else worse or on equal terms to what went on in Portlock? And if you haven't seen our episode of Portlock, you should go check it out, Enigmites. So, Steve, I did some digging, man. And I came across this thing called the Siege of Honobia, right?
Yes.
Are you familiar with it?
I am now. Now that, preparing for this episode, yes, I'm. It was an interesting story. I'll tell you that.
And I'll tell you what, Steve. I actually want to go here, and I think I'm actually going to go here, and I'm going to tell you why. Not necessarily about the Bigfoot stuff, but during the research for this episode, there's some things that popped up there, man, that I find very intriguing that I'm going to try to connect some dots on. But anyways, we'll unpack that as we go. So let's get into this, Enigmites. We're talking to you tonight about the Siege of Honobia. Honobia. Am I saying that right, Steve? Honobia.
Honobia, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but that's good.
Close enough for two white boys. Anyway, so look.
Exactly.
I'm going to give you the where, the when, the who, and then we'll get into the story.
Yep.
Where is Honobia? Honobia is in southeastern Oklahoma, Leflore County, butting up against I'm going to butcher this name, Ouachita National Forest. That's where Honobia is at. When is this story we're going to talk about? Well, this story took place actually in 1999. The fall of 1999 to January 2000, which in Bigfoot terms is relatively, kind of fresh, right?
Not that long ago, yeah.
Not that long ago. So the who this involves is the Humphrey families. The Humphrey families. We're going to get into this in a second. Get into more to it. And Steve, just because I can't let this go, I had to go and look up when Honobia was founded, and it was officially founded when they opened a post office up in 1914. Did you see it?
I caught that same exact note. Yes, I did. I just laughed because of our last episode on Portlock.
We're losers, dog.
I loved it. I was so happy, and I knew as soon as I saw that, I knew that you would pick up on that too.
We're nerds, man. That's we need to do that, man. What we have to do is behind our backgrounds, man. We're gonna have to, when we start making field visits, we don't have to find a post office in these areas, man. And just be like a little meme where we take a picture outside the post office. But anyway, so yeah.
I love that.
So right now, 150 people live in this really small rural town of Hanabi, and they are mainly Choctaw First Nation natives, right? So now, ladies and gentlemen, Enigmites of all ages, lock your kids up because I actually find this story to be more scary than the Portlock story. I really did. I don't know why.
It's pretty. It's terrifying. If you put yourself in their shoes, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how they lasted more than one night.
I don't either.
I would have been out of there. I would have been gone.
Well, I'll tell you. So hold on. I'm gonna tell you how I actually felt some kind of way at the end of this. Right, I really did. And I thought to myself, like, yo, man, you need a break. Like, I felt some kind of way about this story, and I found it more scary than the terror of freaking Portlock. So, anyways, before we get into that, though, ladies and gentlemen, the Siege of Honobia, we're going to tell you a story is about a very aggressive Bigfoot versus man event. And before I get into that, I actually, for some reason, could not let go of LaFleur County, right? And I was like, something about LaFleur County, I could not let go. So I did a sidebar research into LaFleur County. And when I give you, I don't know if you came across this or not, Steve, but when I give you this data as we go, I see why this place is freaking this death row murder central for Bigfoots, right? So anyways, do you know anything about LaFleur County, Steve?
I didn't see anything about specifically the county, but I did read when the area itself was settled initially back in the 1850s. I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but it was
so that's a part of it. So Steve, break that down, man. Yeah. Break that down.
I was just saying, initially what would happen was back in that time period, after the Trail of Tears incident with the Native Americans, this was kind of where the Choctaw Nation was put, essentially. They were put there, and over time, a few other tribes, the Cherokees, Seminoles, and what I have here, Muskogee, in that area, those were the tribes that were kind of forced into that area. And over time, it just became, I think most of them is Choctaw, but yeah, it was kind of just where a bunch of natives were forced to.
Steve, I got a little Choctaw in me.
Oh yeah?
Yep, not enough to register on a DNA test. Like 1,000 generations, a little Choctaw in there. So anyways, so that was the first thing right here about this area that drew my attention is that LaFleur County was settled by the Choctaw. They went first during the Trail of Tears. And the Choctaw, I actually know a lot about the Choctaw because they're southeastern United States of America. They were basically the tribe directly below the Cherokee, right? The Cherokee Indians are all about up in upper East Tennessee, but the Choctaw were down southeast on there as well. And so the Choctaw went out there, right? And they got settled in that area. And like you said, in 1830s, so 1835-ish, they got settled out there, right? And this is where the fiduciary picks up. Trail of Tears was horrible and all of their stuff, right? And again, we say this on this channel. Steve, ignore Native American legends at what?
At your own risk.
At your own risk, son. Right? The Choctaw say stay out the woods, and you go in the woods, well, whatever happens in the woods, they told you, man, stay out the woods, man. So the Choctaw people have a long-standing legend in that area, right? When they settled there in 1830s, when they settled there, they immediately started reporting sightings of hairy creatures resembling, basically Bigfoots, right? They reported them there. And they were often referred to as Hatak Lito, meaning man beast, right? The Choctaw, so Cherokee Indians, man, I don't know if you know anything about that, depending on what area you're in. A lot of Native Americans, tribes will try to say that, hey, look, my people were the best type of warriors. That's not always true. They had different fighting styles. When you're dealing with Comanches, were notorious, hard fighters, right? Yeah. So were the Navajo. So were the Cherokee. So were the Mohawk, but there is no more Mohawks. I saw a movie about it. The Last Mohican. But anyway, the Choctaw were legit fighters, man. They were they probably still are, man. They were legitimate warriors, right? They were Appalachian, Native Americans, right?
Yeah.
And they were legit, right? Different type of warfare. You know, the Comanche and the Navajos, that's more desert warfare. I wouldn't say desert, but that's more open plains warfare. Where, you know, the Choctaw and the Cherokee, they were more, you know, upright, and they were, I mean, they lived in the Appalachian Mountain Range. So, you know, that Fadukery hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So they immediately started having run-ins with this Hatak Litos, right? To the point where they actually went to war with this. It's called the Bigfoot War of 1855. Now write that on your notepad, because we're going to do a podcast on that, man. The Choctaw Indians, I was under the impression that only one other Native American tribe, that was the tribe, I can't remember the name, that actually lives underneath Mount Shasta in California. They went to war with the Bigfoots as well. I didn't know that the Choctaw did, but the Choctaw went to war with these things that we're about to talk to right now in 1855. And that will be a follow-up, right? Begin of this. And this was in southeastern Oklahoma, right? That this happened, right? So the southern part of Oklahoma seems to be like a pretty, you know, wild place. But that's not that in itself, you would think that, okay, LaFleur County, you know, Oklahoma, you know, you don't think much when you think Oklahoma, right? At least I don't, man. Like, it's like, I just don't think much about it, right? We're sleeping on Oklahoma, bro. Check out the rest of this Fadukery I'm about to give you in this, right? So, there are giant mounds in Oklahoma called the Spiro Mounds that are located near the town of Spiro. Not a very original name. The site features a complex of 12 mounds constructed by the Caddoan-speaking people between 850 AD and 1450 AD. Now, they don't call these traditional caves, but these were burial chambers, and they're significant. And you can go do more research this on the Oklahoma Historical Society website. It's a really good website if you're a nerd like me and Steve. Those are giant burial mounds, right? So we got Bigfoots. We got giants. The Hanover Ruinstone Park is situated near Heavener. This park contains large sandstone slabs with inscriptions that resemble the Viking explorer marks. Like, did you know that? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't see that.
So Vikings got as far west as Oklahoma 1,000 years before Columbus found Cuba. And to me, that is fascinating to me, man. I had stories that, you know, they landed in Massachusetts, you know, Leif Erikson got out to Wisconsin or whatever a little bit. But man, they got out to Oklahoma, bro. That is crazy to me, man. That is crazy. Yeah. And that's on the Viking Herald website in Oklahoma. You can go look on that as well. Very rugged terrain and has formations and shelters that resemble basically rock, man-made caves is where the Vikings would build their hovels or whatever, right? Now, here's another one that I want to go. I want to go see all this stuff, actually. Robbers Cave State Park. It's right on the edge of, it's a neighboring county to LaFleur County, but it just caught my eye. It extends into LaFleur County, but it's not 100% in LaFleur County, but I counted it anyways. It has several sandstone hills and caves. And these caves were so massive. This is in the Civil War Society talk website. But they say these caves were so, you know, massive that, you know, outlaws would hide there and all this other stuff. But you and I know that there's a direct correlation between cave tunneling systems and Bigfoots and Sasquatches, right? So we know that, right? So LaFleur County, where these guys are in, has no chill. Never had chill, right?
This is a hot spot. I didn't even realize.
Bro, I didn't realize either.
Middle of nowhere, Oklahoma.
Nowhere. 150 people live in this town, Steve. We'll know them all in a day. Right? 150.
But, you know, I mean, it makes sense. They're not going to go to populated areas.
Yeah,
of course, they're going to live in these desolate, you know, isolated places.
Yeah. I could tell you, man, like I would think that nothing was in Oklahoma right now.
Yeah.
You know, even when I was talking to Shay, she was telling me about some of the crazy Fadukery that goes out there, but this adds up to it. So anyways, enough of that stuff, nerd. You're such a nerd, man. See, only you're a nerd, man. Right?
I know. You got to keep me in line.
Exactly, man. Talking about history, dork. Let's get into some Bigfoot stuff here. So anyways, here we go, Steve.
Yes.
1997, two brothers named Tim and Mike Humphrey bought a property in Honobia County and set up with their wife and their children.
Really quick, before we even get into that, I saw that yes, this is the big story of Honobia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it happened in 1999, 2000. Prior to this, there had been other sightings and tales, and there was one from the 70s. I didn't have an exact year. That it was pretty big. That for a while, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so.
Wow.
There were reports after reports after reports of large, hairy humanoid creatures raiding chicken coops in the area.
Right.
And there were multiple newspaper articles that had been detailing this,
right.
people reporting things like that. Even photographs of footprints, large footprints in these farm areas. So this wasn't the first time this Siege of Honobia.
I didn't see that. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So again, it's a town of 100, 150 people, so it didn't get a huge coverage, but it was happening as far back as the 70s. So.
All right, Steve, you're going with me then. I'm not going in here alone. You're going in with me.
I got you.
All right. That's cool, man. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's cool. So anyway, again, this county knows no chill, bro. Okay. So 1997, which actually I just can't get over that date, man. 1997, right? That's so. Mm-hmm. These aren't log cabins, man. They had electricity, right? So 1997, Tim and Mike Humphrey bought a property in Honobia and set up a homestead with their wives and their children. They were both married. Both brothers were married, had kids already, and they set up a modern day homestead. It's a farm, like a farm. The property already had like a barn and a house. I guess they were sharing the one house, right?
Yep.
A lot of land, and I chuckled when I read that, because I was like, I can hear Tim and Mike going, "Man, you ain't gonna believe the deal I got on this property, son. Look at this." I'm thinking like, yeah, I know why you got it cheap. You know what I'm saying, right? Right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, so, they found out soon enough.
Yeah, they got it on the cheap, man. So they moved in 1997. The incident the incident leads to a head in September, October of 1999, right? Mm-hmm. But for years on there, the brothers reported nothing violent, but they reported howls. They would hear howls. They would shadowing. And if anybody's not familiar with what the term shadowing is when you're dealing with bushcraft, is when the sun sets down in the west, it'll cast a light to the trees, and if anything moves behind the trees, you'll see the shadow shoot out between the trees. It's called shadowing, and that's how sometimes you'll know a bear is creeping on you right in your peripheral, is because the shadow will hit you, right? So they reported shadowing, right? But that in itself, man, when you buy a property that's butted up on the back of a national park, that's nothing new. You know, my parents bought a place and lived there for like 1 year that was literally their backyard turned into the national park. And they woke up and there were black bears on the patio, and they were just like, so they just moved, relatively quickly from that. But that's not nothing new. Like if you live in nature and you experience nature, shadowing, hearing weird stuff, that ain't nothing. You're going to hear things,
you're going to see things, nothing too outrageous, right?
Yeah. And that's not that. And to me, like that wouldn't cause me an alarm, right? Like I saw some shadowing. I'm like, what is that? Is that a deer? I mean, this place was populated with deer too. In fact, man, that was one of their main staples. Is they were.
No, I was just going to say that's the big thing is they were hunters. Yeah. And they went there because there was amazing deer population, a lot of hunting land. Yeah. So they had tons of land to go through, and they were out there a lot. They were out there constantly hunting. They were in the woods. Yeah. So yeah, when you're out there, you're gonna see things, you're gonna hear things. It's not that far fetched in itself.
Yeah, so. For sure, right? So that was on a cause an alarm, right? Enigmites, and if you're ever in the woods, Enigmites, and you see some shadowing, you should turn and look in case it's a mountain lion, but just in case, and then I'm just saying. Run, right? But it's nothing to be scared about. So here's where it starts getting strange, and even to me, when I'm about to tell you, Steve, you're going to agree with me on this. It's not really that strange, right? So the first thing that happened to them is that, you know, in the fall, we'll say September, October 1999, their slaughterhouse got raided and 5 deer carcasses were removed. So if you don't know what a slaughterhouse is, I'll give you a quick little 60 seconds. So a slaughterhouse, when you kill a deer in the woods, you have to take its guts out, right? Because it's really heavy. So normally what you do, I've told people before, you tie a rope around it, hind legs, pull it up, whatever, open up its stomach, pull out its guts, and you just leave it there, right? So you're basically just hauling the bones and the meat back. Well, you hang the bones and the meat in the slaughterhouse, and that's where you can do your work. I don't know. So I don't know why they had 5 of them, because, okay, I don't know why, but maybe they were, maybe it was they were just trying to salt meat for the winter. I don't know how these guys were living, right? But
I was going to say, it sounds about that time of year when you'd want to stock up on that kind of stuff.
So they had 5 deer in there that were field dressed, but weren't butchered yet in the slaughterhouse, right? So something took them out of the slaughterhouse, right? And so when I read their story, they were talking about, hey, no tracks were found and no cars came in or nothing like that. But I was like, you know what, man? 3 dudes could take out 5 deer. And you can't rule out poachers, right? Because we got to put some plausible, that wouldn't lead me to say, oh, there's a rogue ninja Bigfoot clan running around here. That wouldn't be the one to do it for me, right? You, Steve? That going to set me on?
No, it would. I'd be frustrated for sure. But I wouldn't. My first thought wouldn't be, oh, a Bigfoot came in and stole me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be me either. I would blame my neighbor, like that Cletus drinking that moonshine over here, stealing my stuff on there. Right? Yeah, can't rule that out. So that was gone. So 5 deer carcasses were taken. That's not cool. But then over the coming days, or within like a 2-week period, something started snatching their chickens, right? And so to the point where 30 of the chickens eventually were taken, right? And again, they were signs the chickens were not free range. Something was opening up the pen, taking them out, and eventually took 30 of them out. So a fox wasn't in there, no type of predator was in there, no coyote was in there, whatever. Something was taking them out, right? And again, I'm not going to Bigfoot. I'm going to, hey, we got somebody stealing food from our property situation here, and we're gonna have to handle this because this is how we survive. But again, Steve, are you? I know I actually know you're. I'm just asking you just for clarity. Steve,
of course,
are you thinking that's a Bigfoot coming in there?
No.
Yeah,
no.
I know you are.
I'm thinking, like you said, it could be just some jerk neighbor, or poacher, looking for free food.
Because we talk about this all the time, man. The most dangerous thing in the woods are people, right? Like that you want to. Most likely, I mean, they're not the apex predator in there, but most likely your worst encounters are going to be with like other people, right?
Yeah.
So these guys, they're like, you know what? I don't know why they waited 5 deers and 30 chickens later, but they're like, we got to set up some lights. I'm like, okay, look, you know what? I'm thinking we need to do that on day 1, right?
Yeah. They wait till everything's gone and then they set up the lights.
Right. So they set up some floodlights or some perimeter lights or whatever, right? I can't imagine how dark this place was without those lights, but I've been in pretty dark places like that. So they set these lights up, Steve, and literally one day after they set these up, it starts getting strange. And the first thing was somebody banged on the door really hard in the middle of the night, scared everybody. These old boys jump up, grab their weapons, open up, who's banging on my door at 3:00 in the morning, open it up, and they don't see anything, right? There's nothing out there, right? And I was like, okay. This goes on for several other, nights consecutive. And again, I thought this story was going to be a dud when I was reading this, right? Because I'm like, now I'm convinced it's a dude. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm convinced, like, somebody's banging on your door. To me, when I first read it, I don't know what about you, bro?
I mean, knowing that it was a Bigfoot story,
right?
I was like, okay, there's just something happening. But yeah, if I hadn't known that, yeah, so far I'm thinking it's just a prankster or just rowdy neighbors, something like that, you know?
So I guess I'm wearing my skeptic hat today because I even knew it was a Bigfoot story. And I'm like, yo, these jokers are lying, man. Deer, chickens, lights, bang, nothing's going on, right? Well, spoiler alert, I'm proved to be wrong here fairly hard. And this story goes. So anyways, this goes on for several nights. And then they started really amping up. And this is when I would start to say, okay, like, so we got a problem here. Like on night 3 of the lights being on, they started chucking rocks at their house, right? From the tree line, right? And it's hitting their roof, it's hitting their porch or whatever. And basically just harassing them. And then the other family members, especially the children, right? Started to in the wee hours of the morning when they were getting up and going out, the dawn hours, they were reporting that they were seeing hairy figures within the tree line. Not just one, like multiple ones, right? And I was like, okay, that's weird, right? And one of them, I think one of the kids, I don't have their ages or I don't have their names. I wouldn't tell them anyways, but one of them was reporting that, you know, not only are they seeing them, these things, they call them like basically ugly gorillas, were staring at them. They wanted them to see them. Like these weren't the ones hiding behind the trees or, you know, going blurry, right? They were stepping out, right? And they wanted the kids to see them, and they wanted the women to see them, right? And there was one instance that I found was really strange, is that despite all that, they still played. These kids were still outside playing. And like, I'm like, Parent of the Year awards, like you right?
Yeah, and even at this point, again, I'm already gone at this point. I'm thinking, you know what I mean? If I'm seeing large, hairy figures outside and they're throwing rocks at my house and banging on the door, I'm gone.
You're leaving.
I don't care.
You're taking off.
I'm out.
Yeah.
That house is on the market at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I saw why you got it for $10 now, right? So they were out there, and one of the things that made me think for like a half a second that this was something more than like the Bigfoots was that one of them reported hearing growling, right? Did you catch that part? The girl, something was growling at her near the trees?
Yeah.
I've never heard of a Bigfoot growl before, but I heard of dog man growling before. And also, too, like these guys had hunting dogs that refused to go on certain places of the property and would not go on certain hunting trails, right? They would, freak out and they wouldn't go. I've never heard that with Bigfoots before, but I've heard several stories about how dogs won't go near dog men, right? So, yeah. That right there is like, okay, to me, that's be like, you know what, man, we got a problem here. We got we got something's going on. That ain't a dude. It ain't a couple of hillbillies down the street, right? So, but right here, man, is when I think that it gets really, you know, starts crossing a line. So far, you've only took chickens, deers, you've thrown some rocks. And I would say up to that point, man, I would even classify that as, you know, because we have this channel, typical Bigfoot territorial display, right? Throw some rocks at you. I'll steal your chickens or whatever, or whatnot. Something, right? But nothing I would say that was just, you know, make me flee until this night. And go ahead.
Before you jump into that, because I know where you're going with this, one thing that I saw as an aside, while this same time was happening, before things really ramped up, but while the Bigfoots were coming and hitting the door, throwing the rocks, during that same time period, a woman in her, I don't have a name, who was in her 60s, who lived in Honobia, actually disappeared. She disappeared in the woods, and she was never seen again.
What?
So that kind of,
Oh, heck no. In a town of 150 people, a 60-year-old woman is lost in the woods.
Yes, disappeared, gone, never seen again. Again, around the same time that these supposed Bigfoots were ramping up some aggression. So.
That's a good point, man. So so there you go, man. Like, okay, right? Add that to the list, bro. Right? So the 3-year-old girl, Well, that makes them even more scarier to me now. Right now, they got a confirmed kill under their belts, right? You know what I'm saying? Like so yeah. An old 6-year-old lady, like what'd she do?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Poor woman.
Yeah, exactly, right. Just picking blackberries, man. All right. So, anyways, that's messed up. The 3-year-old's playing in her bedroom, whatever. Looks up, and there's a face staring at her through the window, and she claimed that it was a large, ugly gorilla peering through the window. I actually had somebody send me a picture of what looks like a pitch black Bigfoot staring through a window on a farmhouse. He tried to tell me that this was the incident, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like the 3-year-old girl took a camera. So I got the picture. I'm not going to put it in this thing, man. But I was like, okay, it does look like a Bigfoot staring through a window. I just don't think it's this Bigfoot staring through that window. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Probably freaking is though. But anyways, I'm not throwing it up on the screen. I'm just letting you know that I have one. She runs in there. She tells her mom, "Oh my God, this is going on. Freak out, freak out, freak out." Mom's finally had enough, man. She's like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this stuff, man. I want to leave. The boys are like, no, you know what, man? You know, we're all in on this property. We're not going to go anywhere. We'll do something. The very next night, the mother sees the same thing through the kitchen window, right? She's looking out. So she freaks out, man. And so they finally decide to send the women and the children away, right? So I don't know, Tim and his brother, I can't remember his name, man.
Mike, I think.
Tim and Mike, they're like, okay, look, the women and the children, I would have done this as soon as the rock started throwing. I wouldn't have waited this long. Right? Again.
Yeah, it took way too long, but hey.
You know, Husband of the Year awards and whatever. Anyway, so they go stay with nearby relatives, and I don't know how far away, but it says nearby relatives, right? So this was going on, you know, minor harassing stuff. I didn't know about the old lady getting murked. I mean, that's freaking horrible, but on this property, it was minor harassing was going on. One day, the lady was, you know, the wife was going back with her children to visit dad and the husband. It was the morning time. She pulls up, gets out of the car to open up the gate. Opens up the gate, and there's 3 of these big hairy dudes jump out, start freaking her out, you know, giving her the blues. She freaks out, dives in the car, drives up all the way to the house, jumps out. The boys are out there like, what's going on? She's panicked. They're in shock. She tells them, these 2 reach inside. They grab their ARs, right? Which is first move. And they randomly open up fire into the tree line for some reason to let off some warning shots. And that was mistake number 1.
I was going to say that was not a good move on their part. I understand where they're coming from, but it was a bad move.
Yeah. So Bo and Luke Duke just decided to just randomly start, you know, letting off some rounds into the tree lines. And that right there seems to be where I would say, I'm going to use the term, man, that it just jumps off from here, man. So would you agree? Like,
that was they took that as an act of hostility.
It's times 10 here. So the woman's in the house, calms down. They visit for a little while. She leaves. The moment it starts getting dark, these things start flinging rocks at the house, man. Bang, 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 like they're getting like multiple, like a crabapple fight. If you're from the South, man, they're just pegging this house, right? And it ceases for a second, calms down. These guys are armed. They're looking out their windows. They see one of these things scampering across their property. They step out onto the porch and they light it up, right? Pop, 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 pop. They hit it, according to their reports, they pegged it 3 times, right? It stumbled and fell, got up. They shot it a few more times. It gets about, 10 or 15 feet from the tree line, and it takes a dirt nap. It's dead. The rest of the boys in the tree line, man, they lose their absolute freaking mind, right? So now they're coming out of the tree lines, start charging the house. They said that 2 of the Bigfoots picked up the dead Bigfoot. So these guys are like, oh my gosh. So they back into the house. And basically they have a 8-hour shootout where these Bigfoots...
An all-night war
goes on. An all-night war. Bigfoots knock out every single window in the house. Mm-hmm. These guys are just letting off rounds all night long, right? Mm-hmm. And all hell breaks loose on this property, man. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that is insane to me. Because in Portlock, you never see these things, right? Right. Mm-hmm. So you know something's doing the deed, man, but you don't know what's going on. They're surrounded. That's the part that freaked me out. Like you were saying, this is probably scarier than Portlock. Because with Portlock, you're getting killed, but it's because you're out in the woods, you're hunting, you're on their territory. Yeah. In here, they're banging on your front door. They're trying to rip your front door down. Yeah. Yeah. And you're letting off rounds and you're popping them, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, this is a mad moment, Steve. Like, yo, man, like, they got the numbers on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. These guys are back to back in there. They're on the roof. They're busting windows. They're throwing rocks. These guys are shooting out of their house, right? Through windows, through doors. War zone, man. And it lasted all freaking night. And here's the worst part. It went on for 2 more nights. They came back. These guys didn't. They didn't leave.
Yep. I was going to say, this wasn't a one-night deal. This went on. Yeah. This kept going.
They came back. It's like these boys, like, I don't know. I guess they went to town. They loaded up on some more shells, went back, took a couple of naps, ate some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and as soon as the sun goes down, these things, round two. They did it for 2 more nights. That blows my freaking mind. That this was basically...
What blows my mind...
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, for real.
I say, what blows my mind... Why didn't they leave? Yeah. I would have been gone so fast. I would have been out of Oklahoma. I would have been... Yeah. I would have been playing back to Jersey. Yeah. You know?
Keep it. So that's my thing, man. This was a 3-day battle. That's where they get the term siege. This is where the siege of freaking Honobia comes from. Is because it went on for 3 days. And it was funny because after the first night, a logger made a report to the local sheriff that he saw 2 Bigfoot carrying a dead Bigfoot through the woods. So they actually had like a...
There's a record of this happening.
A police report of by a bystander that had nothing to do with these guys were reporting that he saw two Bigfoots carrying a dead Bigfoot through the woods, right? Man, that's insane, son. That is crazy to me, bro. So, anyways,
it's out of control.
Yo, man, like I can just see, like I can see these rednecks. Not my house, by God! Pow, 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 pow. Right? So, like, stand your ground, Cletus. Oh, I love you, cuz. They're playing some Cletus, just cranking AC/DC up as loud as they can, right? And just like going at it, man. Just pop, 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 right? Double fisting AR-15s, you know, it was like this going at it, man. And I was like, oh my God. And the whole time you got these Bigfoots, and they reported this. And another thing too that they described that makes me believe them is that they reported samurai chatter. And that's what it sounds like when Bigfoot start. They sound something crazy like that, right? It sounds like an angry samurai. They reported hearing that language, right?
Crazy.
So I guess 3rd night passed, and these boys were like, you know what, man, I need a break. So they leave for like a day or a day and a half or whatever. And they call in a local Bigfoot research agency. Steve, do you have that name by chance? I don't.
Yeah, I do actually. And I have some information on that. It was, I have it down here. Where the hell is it? The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, the BFRO. And I don't necessarily know that they're not local. They're kind of scattered, you know, nation. Okay. I don't want to say nationwide, but they're an organization that does Bigfoot research. And yeah, the brothers contacted them and told them what was happening. And they said, you know, bring someone in. We need help. Basically, we don't know what to do. We need help. So
So yeah, so supposedly they showed up, and this is where you get some conflicting reports, right? It says that the BFR or whatever
BFRO, yeah.
They offered to buy the property so they could do long-term research, but the brothers claims that they couldn't stand it one night. They got freaked out because as soon as they re-inhabited the house, these things came back, right? And they fled the next day. And so they'll disagree on what happened and what didn't happen. But here's where it gets real for me. As I was just talking about this last night, the MIB showed up. The men in black showed up on this property to talk to these two boys, right? And it's not funny, but it's kind of funny, but it's not horrible because if you know, I've told you what I think the MIB really are several times. They went on there. It wasn't disclosed what was talked about or what was happened, but shortly after this visit, the Humphreys have disappeared. They're gone. No one knows where they are. They left the house with all the furniture, and the investigators that went looking for them said the refrigerator was full of food. So literally, they got men in black, right?
Yep.
I can't stand the men in black, man. They got men in black, right? And I'm just thinking like, okay. So that's real. That happened. That is crazy. And so it was substantiated by the police reports that the family disappeared. They left suddenly, all their belongings, took nothing, disappeared. They don't know where they are. These people could potentially be still, their children, for sure, could potentially be still alive today. No one's ever came forward. No one's ever talked about this, period.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and this was only 24, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like this is long. The brothers, even if they just had kids, I mean, the brothers could have been 40 years old. They'd only be in their 60s, 70 years old.
Well, the daughter would only be 28.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
she was a 3-year-old, right? So yeah, she'd only be 28.
Yeah, so it's not like this is long ago and there's no... These people could very clearly still be out there somewhere.
So in my mind, my happy ending is that they took them into the witness protection program and said, hey, look, we're with the Freemasons and we don't want you telling everybody that there's Nephilim creations running around Oklahoma. So here's a nice house in Arizona. Enjoy the rest of your life. But what probably happened is they're probably at the bottom of Denver Airport at a lab somewhere. Hopefully that's not the case. Anyway, so Steve.
Yes.
We're going to get into this now.
Yes.
That was a story. We both agree. I found this scarier than Portlock because Portlock, there was a boogeyman. I never saw the boogeyman, but you know there was a boogeyman in the woods, right? And as long as I didn't, well, towards the end, he actually came into the town. But like, I here, these guys knew that, hey, look. So by the way, it was January 2000, fam, when these people just disappeared off the face of the earth, right? It was January 2000, right? This all went down like a 5-month period. Okay, Steve.
Yes.
Scarier than Portlock or not scarier than Portlock for you?
I would say scarier than Portlock on the personal reason that, like we were saying, in Portlock, they're out in the woods and you get killed if you go in their territory.
Right.
Here, the Bigfoots are trying to break into these people's houses.
Yeah, they're on my porch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like to me, so this might sound corny, but for me, like one thing that I've always had like a fear of is home invasion, right? Whenever I have a nightmare, that's what it's about. Seriously, like to me, like I have triple locks on my door. Like home invasion to me is the scariest thing ever. Yeah. That's my fear is home invasion. So the idea of something banging on your door at 3 a.m. is terrifying enough. But then when it's a Bigfoot trying to break into your house, yeah, that's rough.
For me, I didn't know that about you, man. That's for me, man. If somebody comes into my house, man, I'm putting on my nods, grabbing my AR, and saying, "Alexa, play. I think we're alone now. I think we're alone." I'm just like, yo, I'm built for that, man. Like I said, man, like if it bleeds, yeah, that's no problem. Lock the door. Now you can't leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, welcome to my world, right? Like, so yeah, I'm not fearing a home invasion, son. Like, but this right here, that that would really like, people that say they don't feel fear, they're lying, or you're a sociopath and you don't feel anything. But like this would scare me. Like I was, I would still fight. But like, man, like that would be something that like by night 2 or 3, I mean, if it's going to be a 3-day fight, like the first night I'm scared. Second night, I'm probably like, third night, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm dropping some more of you, right? Third night, I'd get my wind, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, bro. So like, I think it's scary. I think it's scarier too, just for the same reason, man, that like they're on the porch, right?
They're after you. They're coming for you.
Yeah. And so here's my second question for you, right?
Yes.
Are you fighting or are you leaving?
Oh, I'd have been gone before the fight even started.
Right.
Right. It wouldn't have gotten to that point when, like I said, when there's a Bigfoot banging on my front door at 3 a.m,
right,
I'm out.
You're out.
I'm gone.
Right. So here's my answer, right? And I gotta be real serious, man, on how I felt when I read this story, man. This pissed me off. I don't know why, man. I don't know why. Like, look, first of all, let everybody know something about me, man. I'm kind of a tree hugger, y'all. Like, I'm really big on like, I think climate change is a hoax, because if you really wanted to knock down carbon on the planet, you would plant these things called trees that literally eat carbon. I think Switzerland just did it, and they dropped their local temperature by like 3 degrees. That's how you know, they're cutting down trees and not planting them. And I'm a big I believe in nature preservation. I believe in balance. I don't believe in unnecessary killing. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in actually, I do believe in like animal habitats. I don't think that, we should be putting a strip mall, in certain places. Basically coexist in balance, right? But when I heard this story, now I'm gonna tell you something else, man. When I heard this story, man, that they were going after the kids and the women, that upset me. But now you're literally telling me they murked a 60-year-old. Okay, now we got a legitimate problem, right? So like what is she doing that is so terrible? Because even in my mind, I rationalize this, Steve, is that, okay, maybe the deer killing got these things going, because we talked about that, right? What do you think, right?
I mean, about the deer, how that...
Maybe that set them off because they're killing them. Yeah, so many deer.
It could be.
Right?
Yeah. It is strange how these two show up and all of a sudden, now there's a problem, right?
Yeah, right.
But they are going in and they're causing trouble in the habitat.
Yeah. So you know what?
Definitely be an attraction. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, and look, and what I'm about to say, man, I firmly believe this, man, is that I'm about living in balance, right? And so if I had a property that butted up to like, I've read stories too about people befriending these Bigfoots, right? Like living together, no problem, right? But you know what, man? The earth is man's. I'm going to say this, man. Like the earth is our birthright, right? And we're supposed to take care of it. Don't get me wrong. Like I just said, man, I'm big into like preservation. But just because you're a mountain lion doesn't mean that you get to eat me anytime because I'm in the same woods that you are. I'm not going to go in your cave. I'm not going to go in your living room. And I don't, so I believe that, that's yours, that's mine. Same way with bears, right? But that doesn't mean you get to come into mine either, right? And I'm just okay, like I took 5 deer, you were hungry, you could have left me 2. You know what I'm saying? But you took all the chickens, you took all, like, come on, man, for real, right? Like you took all the chickens, bro. So yeah, man, that kind of like put me out a little bit, but it was the kid thing, man. The harassing the kids, the harassing of the women. And so like, I get it, man, that, maybe these guys went into their hunting grounds. I get it, man, but I ain't leaving. And I'll tell you why. I'm not duking it out for 3 nights in a row, but I'm not leaving. I would leave, but I would 100% come back. And man, I can't get over that 60-year-old woman, man. Like I can't get over that went down, right? I'm coming back with the boys, man. I'm bringing 2 fire teams in here, man, and we're loaded up with ARs and night vision. And I'm going to find your cave. I'm going to find you. I'm going to go to your house, and I'm going to roll some diesel fuel and mixed with freaking Tide, some with Tide bleach or whatever. And I'm going to throw it in your house and see how you like it. And when you come running out, me and my boys are going to do what we call a little triangulation, and we're going to sort this out, right? Mm-hmm. And I would never we've talked about this before too. I would never plug a Bigfoot, right? Period. Like if I saw a Bigfoot in the wild and he threw a rock at me, I would say, okay, look, man, I probably this is a boundary. Yeah. I'm just going to drift this way. Nobody has to die here. Agreed? Right? Mm-hmm. Especially Absolutely. Me, right? Because you've probably been seeing me for a while, and you probably got your boys up here, and I got Scaredy Cat behind me, and I know she's going to break out. I'm surprised she hasn't left yet when the rock hit me in my head, right? So yeah, she's gone, probably in the wrong direction. I got to go run that down, right? She'll twist an ankle, and I got to hump her ass out of there, right? So yeah, so look, nobody has to die here, bro. Yeah, you know what? It's cool. I saw you. I'm leaving. You took my deers. You killed my chicken. Scared my kid. Scared my woman. And now you're chucking rocks at my house. All right, well, we got a problem here, bro. Right? So I wouldn't leave, Steve. I would leave, but I would come back. And again, I've had this. I had a conversation with somebody the other day that was a prepper. You know what a prepper is? Yeah, like a doomsday prepper. Yeah, right. Yeah. And he was. We were in a conversation, and I was just talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hold up and wait it out." And I'm like, he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm going on the offensive. I'm moving out. I'm like, yo, like, I'm not sitting around waiting for them to come to me, right? So like, I would not go back and hole up and like Steve cover left or you cover right, right? When the sun came up, if there's that many in the trees, I'm tracking you back, man. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to find you. And I'm going to go in there with 12 guys, right? Like 3 or 4 fire teams. And Bigfoot rugs will be on sale at Walmart. How bad do you want to push this, right? Mm-hmm. Or we can find a way to live in peace and harmony, right? So, yeah, bro. That is not something that I would let go, bro. And I know that sounds something different for me coming from that channel. But yeah, I got to be honest, man. And I'm just thinking, like, I know people are like laughing, saying, "Oh yeah, you would get it handed to you." And I'm thinking like, no, because they dropped one already, right? So 3 hits took one down, right? Yeah. I actually don't think this is actually two. So I mean, so that's my take, Steve. I'm gonna give you my theory on what this is, but I don't think this is Bigfoots, though. To be honest with you, I'm gonna tell you why. You got anything to add?
I got something here that I want to share, but if you're on a roll, so you go with it. I can come back to this.
So I don't think these are Bigfoots, and I'll tell you why. And so I did an episode last week with Harley Owens, and after the show, he and I were talking, and he had told me a story about Daniel Boone that I'd never heard before, and I actually took the notes down to go and look at it. So Daniel Boone was somewhere in Upper East Tennessee, might slightly have been into Kentucky. And his son got attacked by a Bigfoot. And he could hear it. And he wasn't with his son, but he could hear his son screaming. Now, his son was a grown man. It wasn't like a toddler out there, right? He was like a grown man, right? Mm-hmm. So he runs thinking it was a grizzly bear, because that's a thing, right? Like that really happened back then. And these are muskets, these are one-shotters, right? So he hears the noise, he runs, his son's screaming, he's hurt. He goes in there and he sees a Bigfoot body slamming his kid, right? Like this big Bigfoot, right? 10 foot tall or something like that. And he pulls out his rifle. Now, Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett, I don't know if you ever heard of these guys before, but they were renowned marksmen, right? So was this cat named, I think his name was David Bowie, was a renowned marksman. So Daniel Boone pulls up his long rifle, man, and drops this thing right in the eye. Kills it, dead, boom. Hits it, one shot in the eye, Bigfoot falls over, and he dies. Mm-hmm. He had never seen anything like this before. His kid lives, fairly busted up. So he performs a semi-type of autopsy on it. And when he went to open up the Bigfoot's chest, he couldn't cut through because his entire chest plate was bone. There was no ribs in there. It was just bone. Like he had Kevlar on his vital organs, right? Yeah. So if he hadn't have shot him he didn't know this, but if he hadn't have shot it in its eye, it would have just pissed him off. If he would have, center mass, right, thinking his heart was there, it's just bone, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. And I'm still doing some reading on that as well, man, about that whole Daniel Boone thing, right? But it was a great story.
Mm-hmm.
But also I'd heard stories too of how this is very, when we talk about Portlock, they refer to it as the Otter Man, right? We don't have any proof at all that that was actually a Bigfoot, right?
Right.
They're saying that these were Bigfoots on there, but this is not typical Bigfoot-like behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they siege the house, right? Like, this is the first time that I've ever heard of a siege. But what this does remind me of are the stories that we've read about the wild men and about what was that prospector who got ran off by the pack of 5-foot devil creatures?
Charlie was the guy's name in Devil's Country somewhere. I forget the town name. Yeah, in Alaska.
That ran him off. And another reason, several other reasons why, I'm going to unpack it too. So this is not typical Bigfoot behavior, right? Also, I've read stories in the Appalachian Mountains where Bigfoots have been shot at and they blink. They phase, right?
Yeah.
So one of the famous stories I read was a lady pulled a shotgun on a Bigfoot standing next to her shed. She shot at it. It disappeared for like a split second and it came right back, right? They didn't report this. Another thing too that stands out to me about this story is that these boys referred to it as Bigfoots, but they never gave a height description. They never say like, oh my God, it was 12 feet tall. Oh my God, it was like, 8 feet tall. I couldn't find one.
Yeah, large is the best description I saw. Large,
right? So we would even postulate that, okay, if that was a 6 foot or 7 foot, right? That could be considered large, right? It wasn't like, oh my God, there was this massive 10-foot creatures coming out of the tree line, right? That makes me think more of the wild men stories that you hear out of the western part of Canada. Also, these things never made it into the house. They never got in. And it actually made me think that the same way that like a theory that I'm working on, how dogmen can't come in your house unless you open it up for them, right?
Right.
But also too, these guys are shooting ARs, right? And so the people, you don't know the AR-15s, you know what they look like. But AR-15 shoots basically two types of rounds, man. You have a 5.56 round. I should have brought them out. I got them in the closet. I don't have any 223, but you got a 5.56 and a 223. Those rounds are small. They're not like 30-06 rounds, or they're not like, bigger 45 rounds. A 5.56 round, there's not a lot of kick on an AR, not at all. I mean, like, not, and so they hit this thing 3 times and they killed it. That does not sound like something that a 10-foot or 12-foot Bigfoot would kill it, especially if you go and you hear and you read the Daniel Boone story on how chest shots won't do it, right? So they didn't hit it in the head. They said they hit it in the side. So they put 3 rounds in it and it went down. Another thing too, it went down. A 5.56 wound and a 2.23 wound won't knock you down right away, right? Shot placement will hurt you, but if you took one in the leg, Steve, it wouldn't take you down, right? And you're telling me that you took a Bigfoot down with 5.56 rounds or 2.23 caliber rounds? This leads me to believe that they weren't dealing with Bigfoots, man. This leads me to believe that they were dealing with some type of offshoot, wild man, otter man, some type of something else, right? And I got no problem hunting those, bro. No problem whatsoever, right? The night we dropped one, right, from the side, I'm like, oh, okay, these things can die, right? Now it's on, right? So, now I can guarantee you they won't be any more stealing the chickens on it, right?
Yep.
So yeah, man, that's just my hypothesis on this. When I read this, I don't think these were Bigfoots. I really don't. I think they were some class of something. Don't get me wrong. Like, again, what do we say, Steve, on this channel? What's the bare floor?
that something happened.
Something happened, right? So I think it was something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't strike me as typical Bigfoot behavior, man. It doesn't strike me as something that they would, I hate to be this way, man. But if we're in a house, Steve, back to back, and there's a dozen Bigfoots wanting to get in, we ain't making it. You know what I'm saying? We definitely ain't making it 3 nights in a row, right? So, yeah, man, that's just my hypothesis on it. So yeah, I wouldn't leave. I would leave and come back. I'd come back with my boys, and I wouldn't hold up. We're going into these woods, so we're going to track these things down. And we're going to leave some bodies on the floor, and I'm going to find your cave. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put some Tide dishwashing liquid in a can of gas and make me some napalm, and I'm throwing it in there. And rugs are going on sale. You know what I'm saying? Like
And that's it. Yeah.
Walmart, man. So yeah, man. Only because I don't think they're Bigfoot, man. I don't think we would stand a chance if they were Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't think we would. I don't think we would. And again, because a 2.23 round and a 5.56 round is not dropping a Bigfoot. No shot, man. It's just not, right? It's just not. If you know anything about calibers, and again, leave it in the comments. If anybody knows anything about calibers, you would know that a 2.23 round and a 5.56 round is not dropping a 1,200 pound humanoid. It's not happening, right? Unless you hit it in the eye, maybe. So I would not recommend trying that out. So anyways. All right,
That's
Steve.
right.
So give me what you got, Steve.
Okay, so when we're going back to the story, right? You had brought up the fact that they, after a couple of days of this siege, they contacted the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, and they said, "Hey, come out, document this, help us," things like that. So, again, as you mentioned, the BFRO people said that they had written reports and blah blah blah, that they were there for a few days, but the brothers claimed that no, the BFRO, they were terrified and they were trying to get out of there. It's conflicting stories, right? From what the brothers said to what the BFRO said. And I found that very interesting, that there would be such a conflict. You would think that if something was happening, the BFRO would want to report on it, right?
Right.
So that struck me, that there was a discrepancy between the brothers and the organization. So I actually looked up, I found the BFRO's website, and I found their report from when this happened.
That's what we do. We go the extra mile, Enigmites.
That's right.
We
and
read.
It's long. That's right. We try to, yes. But it's long. There's a lot. It's correspondence between the researchers, the 2 guys, Miles and Roger, and actually Roger's father, who was an experienced hunter. The 3 of them actually went to the site with the brothers, and it's correspondence between them and the people at the field, at the organization. And it's a lot. And like any good book, I read the beginning, skimmed through the rest, and read the end.
Right.
So, because there's a lot there. But I did find it very interesting, because it tends to be what the brothers were kind of saying, that the organization wasn't telling the truth, because this actually, their report, lengthy as it is, seems pretty tame. It doesn't really, it doesn't detail, oh, they were swarming us all night and we were firing around. It doesn't go into that. It does say that, we heard noises in the woods. We saw off on the tree line some movement, but it doesn't detail any sort of a siege. And I found that very interesting. And I think at some point I would like to do a full read through it. But from what I did read, I thought it was interesting. And I do just want to read the end here. Let me pull this up where I saw this. So one constant thing that I kept seeing was they attributed the reason that this was happening to actually what you had said earlier, was the hunting. They feel that, Bigfoots or whatever creatures are out there, they're typically not herbivores. They're omnivores. So if there's fresh meat, they're hungry. Yeah. Right. So the whole gist of their report is these guys need to just stop hunting and they'll stop getting attacked.
Right.
And so I just want to read the end here. I guess this was the wrap up of the report after they had left and before the brothers wound up disappearing. So I'm just going to read this part real quick.
Go for it, bro.
All right. So it says here, as with any small town situation, word got out about what was happening on the property. Not only did everyone seem to know what was going on, but the location soon came under surveillance from the State Fish and Game Office. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The MIBs. The residents could no longer go hunting Bigfoots off the back porch or shoot indiscriminately into the night. The family was eventually persuaded to stop shooting the creatures and instead deal with the underlying cause of the problem. They needed to get rid of all the deer meat and stop hunting deer on the property. The increased presence of fish and game vehicles in the area made that argument a lot easier to sell. It wasn't long before that they indicated everything had died down. They said the Bigfoots seemed to keep a greater distance. They were heard off in the distance and in the nearby hilltops, but did not try to enter the home again. The family heard less and less vocalizations as the weeks went on. Eventually, the vocalizations ceased altogether. It was assumed the animals moved into the animals they called Bigfoot, assumed the animals moved into a different area. There was plenty of places for them to go. A few weeks later, the BFRO sent another investigator to the area to explore and solo camp in the vicinity of the home. She went well prepared and camped for a few days alone with her dog. She returned a few weeks later with a camera, and the camera had nothing definite on it. So it seems that, again, their report made it seem pretty tame. So it's interesting.
There's definitely a conflict there, man.
Are the brothers telling the truth or the BFR telling the truth? Because, not that I'm picking sides here, but I'm inclined to more believe that a Bigfoot organization would want this kind of story. They would want to publish something like this, right?
Right.
If there was an actual siege.
Yeah.
This would be groundbreaking for them. Why wouldn't they want to publish something like that?
Yeah.
For them to just be like, oh, yeah, we saw and heard some stuff in the distance and it went away. It's kind of confusing, but who knows?
Fiduciary, Steve. Fiduciary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's not telling the truth here. Somebody's not telling the truth.
Yep.
Anyways, before we wrap it up, Steve, you know how we do.
Mm-hmm.
Did it happen, Steve? Did it go down? Or did it not go down?
I'm conflicted. And as the typical cynic, I'm going to say the siege did not happen.
Okay.
Maybe as the brothers described it.
Right.
But I will not discredit the fact that they saw something. I just don't think it was intense as what they say happened.
A 3-day battle? For real?
You really?
Like 3 days, right? Like three nights?
3 days, 3 nights.
Yeah.
Just chilling on their roof and just firing out the windows.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, so,
hunting off swarms of Bigfoots. Something to me just doesn't add up.
Day 2. Steve's not going to make it. I've got enough water for 12 more hours. my only chance is to make a run for it at dawn. That's it, right? So yeah, man, like a 3-day gun battle, man. Yeah. So percentage wise, 80-20, where are you at, Steve? 80, where are you at on the truth meter here?
On the truth meter, I'm on the low end.
Really?
I would say, yeah. I don't think it happened nearly as big as what they say. I think maybe, again, obviously, and yes, it was documented that the family was gone. The family moved out, and there was the document of the other logger who said he saw a Bigfoot carrying another Bigfoot. Right. So people saw something. People saw something, and it's documented. Was it carrying another Bigfoot? Was it Bigfoot swarming these people's houses? That to me is a little far-fetched. But something happened out there, yes.
So you're 80% in on Portlock. Where are you at percentage-wise on this?
I think I might be on the opposite spectrum. I think I'm 20% on the full story.
There you go. There you are. Those are your normal numbers right there.
Yeah.
20%, right? So I'm going to shock you on this, man.
Happened.
I'm going to shock you on this, man. I'm going to shock you. I'm at a 70%. I'm not all in. And I'll tell you why before I go. Now, now look, I'm all in that they killed a Bigfoot. that they shot and killed something.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if it was a war. Now and I do believe that the little girl saw something. I do believe the 60-year-old woman, something did take her, right? Something got her. The logger did see 2 Bigfoots carrying a dead one and reported it independently to their story. I do think that they shot and killed it. And I do think for one night they had to fight it off. And that's where I think the story ended. That's where I think they left.
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot wrap my mind around it that they went back and they just for 2 more days, 2 more nights, duked it out.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't wrap my mind around that. And no more bodies were found. There were no more bodies were found. I think that probably what happened was that thing wasn't running across their yard. That he was chucking rocks at them, and they shot at it from off the porch. Which, okay, don't throw rocks at guys with guns, and they killed it. I do think that happened, and I think that was probably the only fatality was that one Bigfoot in there. And I don't know where these people went. That just adds more to the mystery of it or whatever. So I'm going to say that this story is 100% true until the end of the first night, and that's where I think it ends. And I've talked to people before, and I've made comments before. People have these incredible stories, and it seems that the story's never just incredible enough for them. They keep adding to it and adding to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go. We fought them for 3 more days. It's like, what? 3 more days? For real? They're like, yeah, like no, like the 3 hours is enough to convince me. Like, holy wow, that's incredible! Right now, you went for 3 days. Like, wow, man, you are your next level. So I'm gonna say up to that point, 100% true. After that, yeah, it starts drifting down until they disappear off the face of the earth. And I'm just thinking, like, okay, that's it. So anyway, Steve, man, we brought the receipts again. Another one in the episode there, man. So if you stuck around this long, nerds, what are they, Steve? What are they?
Our kind of loser.
Our kind of losers, babies. Do us a favor. Smash the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know if you think this story is true. Let us know if you think this story is more scary than the Portlock story, which I think it is. Let me know if you think that if a 2.23 round or a 5.56 round is enough to drop a 12-foot Bigfoot. I'm saying it's not. Steve, you got anything else?
That's all I got.
And that's all you get for $1, nerds. We're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.